Hello everybody, my name is Noah Holley and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Pride Report, College Pride Press's brand new YouTube series. I'm so excited to have you here, but before we get started with today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to explain what this show is all about and what you can expect. Basically, the Pride Report is a Monday through Thursday college basketball news show that will usually be about 10 minutes in length. Each day I'll cover the top stories around college basketball, recap the previous night's action, and look ahead to the current day's slate of games. It will serve as an alternative form of content to the Sunday podcast. You'll go to the Sunday podcast for an hour of in-depth expert analysis, and you'll come here for your daily fix on what's going on around the sport. We at CPP are very excited to bring you this new series, and I am very excited for the opportunity to host it. So without further ado, let's hop into the show. Alright, so the first thing we're going to be doing every episode of the Pride Report is recapping the previous night's action. There's not a whole lot to get to tonight besides this rivalry game right here. Florida State with a dominant 83-66 victory on the road against number 5 Florida. Terrence Mann led the way with 25 points for the Seminoles, which remained undefeated on the year. C.J. Walker also had 17 for Florida State. This was simply Florida State's night from the get-go. Florida could never get hot from behind the arc, arguably their biggest offensive strength, and was hopelessly out-rebounded 51-34. FSU showcased masterful ball movement throughout the night, as well as a consistent ability to execute while driving to the rim en route to the victory, which was their 4th straight over the Gators. It's the first time they've ever won 4 consecutive over Florida. Florida looked just as bad as FSU looked good. My major takeaway from this lackluster performance has to be how soft the Gators played. They were completely out-toughed. I get it, Florida isn't known for their size, but you can't win games relying on the three-point shot for your offensive production. There are going to be nights when you just can't hit anything, like last night. You also can't win when you're out-rebounded by 17. FSU was relentless in their aggressive and physical play. Terrence Mann in particular, and it resulted in an embarrassing loss for Florida, which also happens to be their 2nd straight. But Florida State, on nobody's radar as a potential ACC contender entering the year after losing Jonathan Isaac, Dwayne Bacon, and Xavier Rattan-Mays. So much talent from the previous year. They have a solid chance to enter ACC play 12-0 this year. They probably won't be unbeaten for long in this scenario, however, as they'll be opening up their conference slate with Duke, UNC, Miami, Louisville, and Syracuse on tap. Yeah, that's right, the ACC is going to be absolutely ridiculous once again, especially if Florida State can continue to play at this level. But like I said earlier, besides the FSU-Florida game, it was mostly a quiet Monday night in college basketball. There was a lot of Big Ten Conference action as Ohio State and Wisconsin pulled away late to earn wins. Indiana also earned a win over Iowa. Baylor, the only top 25 team other than Florida to play last night, rode a balanced effort to a win over Sam Houston. Each day we're going to be taking a look at the biggest story of the day on the Pride Report. And for today's hot topic, we have LeVar Ball pulling LiAngelo Ball from UCLA yesterday in the midst of the horribly messy overseas shoplifting situation. Now granted, Ball's eligibility to play at all this season was in serious doubt even before he was released from the school, but this is still big news because, the Ball family. LeVar told ESPN that he is exploring other options for Jello and that he will make him way better for the draft than UCLA could have. I'm a little bit surprised that we're talking about draft in regards to LiAngelo Ball, and I think that NBA scouts were too. When NBA scouts were approached about his status as a prospect yesterday, the consensus response was essentially LOL no. I asked CPP NBA draft analyst Brett Siegel about this because I was curious about his thoughts, and his response was, and I quote, LiAngelo Ball is nothing more than a character on the next episode of the life of LeVar Ball. No, he is not close to being an NBA prospect at this point. He's not relatively big for his position, has a low-developed shot, and has shown his immaturity this offseason. LeVar can do what he wants with him, but him and LaMelo will always live on Lonzo's shoulders. My initial thought upon hearing this news is whether the Ball family's falling out with UCLA would affect LaMelo, LeVar's youngest son's, commitment to UCLA. As of right now, he remains committed, but when it comes to LeVar, literally anything could happen, so it doesn't really mean much. But at the end of the day, though, I do feel bad for LiAngelo. No, I'm not excusing him for the shoplifting incident by any means, but it is clear that he has literally no say in his future, and that can't be much fun. College basketball is probably the highest level he can play competitively, and if that gets taken away from him, if LeVar, as expected, denies him the opportunity to transfer, that could potentially be very disappointing for him. Alright, now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at some of the top games around college basketball tonight. Now, Tuesday is one of the biggest nights of the non-conference slate. We have so much that I can't wait to get to, and we're going to start with Villanova taking on Gonzaga in the first game of the Jimmy V Classic doubleheader tonight. Here with his thoughts and prediction for the matchup is FanSided's Connor Hope.
The Jimmy V Classic is being held in Madison Square Garden tonight, with a nightcap featuring a huge top 15 matchup between the number 12 Gonzaga Bulldogs and number 4 Villanova Wildcats. It'll be the first time that the two programs meet in their history and will prove to be one of the toughest challenges that each team faces all season. Mark Few's Gonzaga Bulldogs have had a great 7-1 start to their year behind double-digit per-game scoring from 6 of their players and solid team defense on the other end of the floor. Their only loss came in a double overtime thriller to the Florida Gators in the Phil Knight Invitational, and the Bulldogs have gotten 2 solid wins against the Texas Longhorns and the Creighton Blue Jays. Jay Wright's Villanova Wildcats have gotten off to a roaring 8-0 start behind a huge effort from one of the best tandems in college basketball, Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson. The team also features one of the most efficient offenses and efficient defenses in the country and wear down other teams in order to get the win. The key matchup to watch tonight will be at the point guard position between Villanova's Jalen Brunson and Gonzaga's Josh Perkins. Brunson is an early contender for National Player of the Year, while Perkins is one of the best three-point shooters in all of college basketball. It'll also be interesting to watch and see if Corey Kispert is able to play tonight, as an ankle injury kept him out of Friday's matchup against Creighton. In Kispert's stead, it is likely that we will see Zach Norvell start for the Bulldogs, who is more than willing to carry the load. The Gonzaga Bulldogs have an edge on the interior, with Jonathan Williams and Killian Tilly holding down the paint. But it is Villanova's effort on the perimeter and Gonzaga's relatively poor three-point shooting defense that will give Villanova the win in New York.
A big thank you to Connor for sending in that clip. If you want to follow him on Twitter, links are in the description below. But let's get to some of the other games tonight, and we have another top 25 matchup on tap for you. To kick it off, 15 Virginia traveling to face number 18 West Virginia for the second consecutive year in a battle of relentless defense. This one is going to be a lot of fun, especially if you like defense, as both teams are similar in terms of play styles. As a Virginia fan and a college hoops fan in general, I'm glad this is an ongoing rivalry for that exact reason. Virginia's offense has been surprisingly efficient this season, sans the ugly 49-point output versus Wisconsin last week. We're seeing a more decisive version of Tony Bennett's attack, with less possessions resulting in a rush shot. Their overall pace remains the nation's slowest by a pretty large margin, but it appears UVA has adapted to fit their collective offensive skill set. What I mean by this is, for example, I've noticed when Nigel Johnson, a graduate transfer from Rutgers, has the ball in his hands, UVA speeds up considerably. Johnson is best suited running the floor or driving the basket with ease and not killing the shot clock with unselfish passing, so the offense has adjusted accordingly, I should say. It's things like this that have boosted UVA's team chemistry to an all-time high and have me really excited long-term for this group, but I am going to contradict myself a bit here and predict that West Virginia takes this one. As a fan that knows good defense, the full court press really scares me. As usual, West Virginia leads the nation in turnover margin, and if UVA gets sloppy and West Virginia is able to string a few forced turnovers in a row, the momentum could shift instantly in West Virginia's favor, and UVA could be in big-time trouble. The combination of a passionate home crowd, and an erratic defense spells bad news for any team, including UVA, who is as difficult of a team to speed up as you will find. Nevada putting their unbeaten status on the line versus Texas Tech. Nevada's ranked for the first time since 2007, so big congrats to the Wolfpack, who absolutely deserve it. I believe that Nevada is not only capable of giving virtually anyone in the country a run for their money, I think they also have a shot at finishing the regular season undefeated, even though the Mountain West appears tougher than most years with the rise of UNLV. But I'll get to that later. Anyway, that is if they can win tonight. If they can win tonight, of course, I think that they could have a shot at going undefeated. I think they're that good. Yeah, like even after losing their top two scorers from last season, the Pack are loaded thanks to the addition of NC State transfers Caleb and Cody Martin, who jumped from one Wolfpack school to the other. Also, Jordan Caroline has been absolutely huge as well, scoring 18.4 points per game and averaging 9 rebounds. Remember, he is a guard. Talk about a mismatch. He's a matchup nightmare. As for Texas Tech, Chris Beard's squad is a nice blend of experience. Tech's 5 top scorers consist of 3 seniors and 2 freshmen. They can go 10 deep and are efficient on both ends of the floor, especially defensively. Yes, the Raiders allowed an uncharacteristically high 89 points in their loss to Seton Hall last week, but prior to the contest, they were top 5 nationally in scoring defense. But back to Nevada. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can accomplish against Power 6 opposition. They're going to be tested versus another Big 12 team in TCU later this week, so we're going to learn a lot about Nevada fairly quick and how good they really are. I think they earned the win tonight, though. Texas A&M and Arizona will be meeting at the Phoenix Suns Talking Stick Resort Arena tonight. Not the top 10 matchup we were initially hoping for, but nevertheless a big-time game here in Phoenix. Arizona has a really tall task here if they hope to knock off the Aggies. Not only is Texas A&M undefeated, they are essentially uncontested even against top 12 teams. In the season opener against West Virginia at a neutral site, they absolutely blew the Mountaineers out of the water, winning by 23. And on the road at USC, they won by 14. After Arizona's winless Battle for Atlantis performance had dropped them from number 2 to clean out of the rankings, this was like a must-win of sorts. If Arizona does not win tonight, there's a good chance their best non-conference win will be UNLV, whom they barely beat in overtime Sunday. With the Pac-12 looking terribly mediocre right now, the Wildcats are at risk of a very poor NCAA tournament resume. The matchup of dynamic front courts is probably the most intriguing thing about this game. There will be loads of elite talent and size manning the interior tonight, as Arizona's potential number 1 draft pick DeAndre Ayton will go up against Texas A&M's Robert Williams, DJ Hogue, and Tyler Davis. Great trio there. But Ayton, one of the most physically impressive college basketball players I've ever seen, is averaging a double-double, as you can see on screen. Even with the depth that Texas A&M has in their front court, it's going to be very difficult to contain him. If he can get into foul trouble early, I don't really see how Arizona can win this one. But in terms of my prediction for the result, I think the difference in this matchup will be Alonzo Trier. Trier has the ability to take over the game, and I think he steps up big late, similar to how he did against UNLV. It is an extremely risky selection considering how unstoppable Texas A&M looks and how much Arizona has struggled so far this young season. But remember, this is essentially a home game for the Wildcats, which is a factor. I'm going to take them here in a big-time upset. SMU and TCU will face off in the latest edition of their heated rivalry. TCU takes a nation-leading 13-game winning streak into the contest. You'd be hard-pressed to find an edition of this rivalry with both teams coming in to the game off to such a blazing start. SMU destroyed then number 10 USC in their last game 72-55 and will look to earn back-to-back top 25 victories tonight. I think they can do it too, behind it, another big night from Shake Milton, one of my absolute favorite players to watch in the country. In other action around college hoops tonight, we got plenty more top 25 teams that will play, including Michigan State, my personal choice for number 1 in my CPP top 25 ballot this week after back-to-back wins against top 10 ACC teams. They continued their run of success against Nebraska Sunday, winning 86-57. Rutgers comes into tonight's matchup with back-to-back losses against Florida State and Minnesota. I got Michigan State big time in this one. I think they roll to another easy victory. Texas coach Shaka Smart faces his old school and his old friend in current VCU coach Mike Rhodes in a crucial RPI game. That one should be a lot of fun. Minnesota will make their Big Ten road debut. Syracuse and UConn will renew their Big East rivalry tonight in the nightcap of the Jimmy V Classic, as Connor mentioned earlier. I don't think UConn is very good at all. I got Syracuse in this one by about 10 or so. But I will be watching the entirety of tonight's game most likely for the nostalgia factor. Here's the rest of the top 25 slate tonight. Expect the ACC teams to roll to easy wins. But South Dakota State, who I believe is in contention for a 12 seed in the Big Dance, could make this one a little bit more competitive. This one against Wichita State, I should say, a little bit more competitive than you may think. Still, Wichita State is a pretty easy pick to win at home and improve to 7-1 tonight. Didn't have room to fit Vermont versus Marquette or Utah versus Butler on screen, but those games will be 7 and 9 p.m. Eastern Time respectively on Fox Sports 1. And if you just can't wait to get a head start on watching college basketball tonight, James Madison will face the Citadel at 6 p.m. on ESPN3 or watch ESPN. Alright, that's pretty much going to do it for tonight's episode. If you liked what you saw here, be sure to let me know by hitting the subscribe button and heading on over to Twitter to follow the show at CPP Pride Report. That is 3 P's in a row. If you want to follow my personal account, that is at Noah Sports 1. If you want to follow Connor, like I mentioned earlier, I will put his Twitter down in the description. But before I go, I would like to discuss a few things. First off, I'm not 100% sure I won't be posting on Fridays at all this season. That's something I'd like to address real quick. But anyway, since I'm busy on that day anyway, I figured that I would merge the Thursday episode and the weekend preview into one episode. I'm only going to be posting 7 times before Christmas break begins on December 16th, and I'm not going to be posting from that day till January 2nd, which is when I believe Christmas break will end. I'll have to see. But basically, after I have a few episodes under my belt during that break, I will evaluate what I need to improve about the show, whether or not I should adjust the schedule, for example, adding Fridays, or taper the segments, or that sort of thing. It's just going to be trial and error. But for now, I'll continue to play it by ear. Also, I know that I said it would be around 10 minutes in length at the beginning of the show, but I clearly lied. Note that today is one of the biggest days of the college basketball non-conference season, so there is a lot to talk about. I'm sure some days the show will be about 5 or 7 minutes long, if there's not any big games, or there's not a big news story, or it could be 20 minutes long. It all depends on how much there is to talk about. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about and what I think is worth putting into the show without much of a regard for the time. 10 minutes is simply my estimate for the average duration. Again, like I said, this is all trial and error here. But a big thank you to Connor Hope for joining me today. I really enjoyed his analysis of the matchup tonight. But signing off for now, I'm Noah Holley. You're watching the Pride Report, and my camera is running out of battery and memory quite rapidly, so I really have to go. But like I said, thanks for watching, and enjoy the games. Bye.